All right, this is the week 7 training tape. There is only 5 plays we're going to look at, and then we're going to look at an end of game situation. So I will apologize up front. This may be a little bit longer than our normal ones, depending on how verbose I decide to get. All right, this first play, you are not seeing double. This was on last week's training tape, and I wanted to make some clarifications where I made some mistakes. So first off, we have a block below the waist on the far side of the line, and you could see number 5 block below the waist, and then we have the shove to the ground for the foul for unnecessary roughness after the play. So the block below the waist, the reason it's a foul is because that defensive lineman is not on the line. Okay, that's the reason why that is a correct call for a block below the waist. As far as the enforcement goes, since this is technically not a successful try because we have a live ball foul by the offense, the dead ball foul has to be enforced on the succeeding spot, which is the next try. So the way this should have been enforced was we should have went back 15 for the block below the waist, which we did, and then go half the distance forward from the 18 to the 9 and had them retry. So I apologize for the confusion last week. I had a lot of discussions with rules interpreters over this play, and we finally came to a consensus on how it should have been adjudicated. So I appreciate the comments regarding this one. All right, this next play, again, we've been seeing this a lot, and let's look at the movement by the defensive line here. Okay, watch what they're doing. This is not normal defensive line movement. It's not abrupt, but those aren't football moves. They're doing it to try to get the offense to jump. I mean, they're not trying to shift. They're not trying to get into position. There's one reason they're trying to do this. So in this case, as I'll play it live, if the offense would have jumped, we are going to put this on the defense for an unfair act because this is not a part of normal football movement. And, it's something that we're seeing more and more each week in our game. Okay, so we need to, if we don't call it in this situation, which I'm okay with because the offense didn't jump, we immediately need to go have a discussion with the defensive team coach and tell them that if something were to happen or if this happens again in the future, we are going to penalize the defense here for a disconcerting signal, disconcerting act situation here. All right, this next play, there's 2 factions to this play I want to look at. The first one has to do with ineligibles downfield. Okay, so right now we're snapping the ball. It looks like, from my guess, it looks like it's from the 34-yard line. And we know the rule is when the ball is released, no originally ineligible receiver can be more than 2 yards downfield when the ball is released, granted that the ball crosses the line of scrimmage. So how do we officiate this play? So let's play this play out full. We have a pass out to the side, and then are tackled out of bounds. So let's just take a look at this situation. So as the pass comes down to this side, and it's very apparent that it will, the line of scrimmage official on the top of the screen should be looking downfield. Okay, and it's a difficult call, and I'm not exactly sure. It's not clear and obvious, but this player does look to be 3 yards downfield, and then when the ball is released, he's more like 4. So this is a situation where it is clear and obvious that this lineman is downfield, and a call for ineligible downfield on number 74 would be warranted in this situation. It is a difficult play to officiate because we have 2 parts of this play. We have the release, we see it, we go back and look, and we may not be sure, but if we don't have anything going on, line of scrimmage officials on our side, and we see a pass, we should immediately be thinking situations such as ineligibles downfield. All right, this next part of the play that I want to look at is the mechanics by the side judge in here. I'm sorry, the field judge in this situation. The field judge should be getting a little bit of depth here, and should allow he's standing still and almost gets run over. So we'd like you deeper here. And you should, it's not a extremely deep pass, but we should allow the line judge in this case to come up and get the spot. So what we have is we have you coming up looking down at the spot, and we have a whole bunch of players behind you, and we never want to have players behind us. We want to be upfield a little bit more and look through. Now, if it comes to a case where our line of scrimmage official doesn't know where the ball went out of bounds or the runner went out of bounds, we can yell a yard line out to them. And also, we can have cross-field mechanics by the head linesman in this situation. So mechanics. We got to work on those and continue to get better with those situations. Next play, we're going to look at a punt play. And as you can see, we don't have 12 players on the field because they're in an active substitution process and they're not breaking the huddle. The first player I want us to take a look at is this player right here. And that's the sole responsibility of the line judge in this situation. So let's take a look at what happens. Pretty clear and obvious throwdown, right? So we should have a flag on that play for a live ball during the kick, foul on the kicking team for a hold. So next we're going to take a look at what happens up here. And that key is for the side judge. Look what happens with the return team. Obvious throwdown, which we get on this play. So in this play, we should have two fouls on the play. We should have a live ball foul by the kicking team for holding, and we should have a live ball foul by the return team for holding, both of which took place during the kick. Okay, so in case I'm mistaken, we're going to offset this probably and replay the down, because the defense, the return team had a pretty nice return, and the kicking team's probably going to want to replay the down and accept the penalty. But the order of occurrence is important here, because based on the order of occurrence is how we're going to ask this to go to the coaches. So initially we have a live ball foul for that hold right there. So we're going to go to the return team and say, hey, we have a live ball foul for holding on the offense, on the return team. Now, we can tell them if they decline this foul, then they're going to take the holding on the return team at the spot of the foul, if the spot of the foul is behind the end of the run. And by explaining that to the coach, he's probably going to say, you know what, we're going to take that foul, and then obviously the kicking team is going to take the other foul, and we're going to replay the down in this situation. But it is important to, when you report the fouls to the referee, let them know that it's during the kick. Both of these fouls are during the kick, because if one was during the kick and one was during the return, there are different enforcement in this situation. And I just made a enforcement error, because this would have not been at the spot of the foul. It would have been at the PSK spot, which is the end of the kick right here. So I'm catching myself before you all catch me in this situation. So allow them to know their options in this situation. All right, this next play is a reason we need to stay with our keys and dead ball officiate. I want you to watch what the center does, and watch the whole play with the center and what he does. All right, so you see that action by the center, right? And let's start this first asset. He's trying to get over the defensive end, and he's probably getting grabbed. That's not right. We don't, if it becomes defensive holding to where he's actually trying to get out and block someone, and the defensive lineman is not allowing them to do that, then we could think about maybe this rises to the level of a defensive hold, which in this situation, I don't necessarily think it does. But what we cannot do is allow that action right there and allow that kick to that stomach of the defensive lineman. It happens right out in the open, okay? And these are situations that, it's really hard to have a comment back and say why we didn't call it. And frankly enough, that's enough for an ejection in that case. It's an obvious kick. He winds up, kicks him right in number 55, right in the stomach. And it's an intent to injure in that situation with the spike. He's not trying to rip his foot away. If it happened like the first part, like this part where he's trying to get out, it's pretty obvious that he's trying to get out of the grasp of the defensive line. But the windup and then the subsequent kick right there, I mean, that player could have been injured, and we could have had a more serious situation here and there. All right. So these next set of plays we're going to look at is a subsequent final drive in this game. And we're going to start with 18 seconds to go in this game. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk us through what our thought process should be in these situations and how mechanically we should be handling these situations. So we have 18 seconds on the clock, and we're going to be kicking off. Let me fast forward it a little bit. Apologize. All right, so here we are. We're kicking off with 18 seconds to go. We should be telling ourselves the ball has to be legally touched for us to wind the clock. Those are important things, such as this situation. Now, umpires, don't be so quick to move forward in these situations. The other thing we should be in our head, do we have 4 players on either side of the kicker? Minimum. So we have a ball, it's recovered, we're out of bounds at the 35-yard line, we're coming up and kill the clock. As we're killing the clock, we should take a look at the clock, because we wrote down the game on our game card. There were 18 seconds to go and there was a touchdown. So we need to know, and the person who owns the game clock, which I think in this case is the field judge, should be timing this on his or her watch to know what's going on. So we know what time's left. So we're starting from a big line right here. Okay, we're starting from the 35-yard line. We're starting from the left hash with X amount of seconds left. Now we need to be hustling up and getting the ball marked properly at the 35-yard line. Okay, because now we have a team who is huddled and they're getting a little bit extra time. So we need to get that team out of the huddle. Right now we should have chopped the play clock in. Okay? Let's not let the team dictate to us when we chop the play clock in. We should chop the play clock in. Okay, we do our counts. You can see right here, the referee does his count. Umpire, I don't know if you did your count or not. Deep people, we should be doing our count. Line of scrimmage officials. We know that the ball started on the 35-yard line. If we reach the tip of the 45-yard line, we have a first down. We have a motion out. Now we have a pass. It's thrown, caught, tackled. His hand was down, so his hand's allowed to be down. Comes out, touches the tip of the ball on the 45-yard line. So we immediately know in that situation we have a first down. So we're killing the clock. You can see the coach at the top of the screen trying to signal timeout. You immediately turn to the coach and say, "Coach, we are stopping the clock for a first down. Do you still want the timeout?" The clock will wind. The clock will wind after we get the ball set. We got to be quick with that communication, because what ends up happening here is there looks like we grant the timeout and we move the chains. So there's a bit of confusion that's going on, not only at the bottom of the screen, they think that we granted the timeout. And now they spiked the ball. So now there becomes a little bit of confusion here. So now we're at second down and 10 at the 45-yard line. We get to the 55-yard line. So now we're having a discussion of what happened on the play. Was there a timeout granted? Was there, what was going on? What is the clock status? Because once we reach that first down, and this is where clock operators can really hinder our ability. Once we get that first down, and we should be, the field judge, looking at the clock. Everyone should be clock watching at this time and knowing what that happens. Now, when the ball is snapped, everyone gets set, and umpires, we cannot walk away with our backs to the ball. We spike the ball. We got to immediately then look at the clock and say how much time is left on the clock. We need to have at least a tick or two come off, because that play is going to take a second, okay? Moving a little bit forward, we see that there is a lot of discussion what's going on. And the one thing we have to be very clear with this discussion is we don't allow the offense to get an unfair advantage by granting them some extra time here. So now we get the situation cleared. We're at second down and 10. Headlines, and we got to move back with a little bit of purpose and get to the line of scrimmage. So we're at second and 10. We're snapping the ball in. Good no call for hold at the top. We reached the first down, and now we're out of bounds at the 41-yard line at the left hash. So we know the clock is going to start on the snap because the ball is out of bounds. So we have 1st and 10 at the 41-yard line, checking the clock once again. And you saw at the bottom of the screen the field judge come in and exchange balls. That's fine. We don't need to be in a super hurry in this situation because the clock is stopped and it will not start until the snap. So we get in. We got to get to our positions, though. We got to hustle back to our positions and be prepared. So we have 1st and 10 on the 41-yard line. We got to get to the 31-yard line. This is what should be going through our heads. There's X amount of seconds left. If there are 10 seconds, 7 seconds, we should be thinking they are down in the field of play before the line to gain. I got to look for a timeout if they have one. So here we go. In this situation, the ball is going to be snapped at the 41. We're going to have a pass over the middle. And right there, the ball carrier is down at the 32-yard line. And you can see at the top of the screen that this coach is already yelling for a timeout. And as that head linesman realizes it, he comes in and kills the clock. But let's take a look at where the runner was down. And this stuff becomes very important at the end of the game. So the runner becomes down at the right upright at this situation. So we should be spotting ball at the right upright at the 32-yard line. We have 3rd down and 1. But what ends up happening is the game clock runs out. And we have this team running on the field thinking they won the game. So this is where if you have other information, such as what the clock should be based on what your clock says, you need to sprint in blowing your whistle at this point and making it known and getting on your 020 with your referee and saying, Mr. Referee, the game is not over. And then the referee, you click on the mic and say the game is not over. You run in, and if you have positive evidence that there was 1 second on the clock whenever that head linesman killed the clock by raising his or her hands above their heads, and the other thing that could have happened is the head linesman could have taken a look at the clock and noticed that there was more time on the clock. But we need to be a little more move with a little bit more urgency if we are going to reset the clock in a situation where time expires. Okay, because now we have everyone on the field and there's mass confusion. So what we need to be doing is blowing our whistles and getting everyone off the field. And the referee announcing the game is not over, everyone going to your sidelines, if you have a microphone, will help in these situations. And as you can see, they move them to the sideline. We have an explanation, and it should be more than one official with the coach giving that coach the explanation. So the team at top has a timeout, and you can see we're allowing them to huddle. The coach is coming out to talk to their players at the same time. 30-second timeout. It's okay if you give them a little bit more because we aided in the confusion of the situation. So he has no idea in this. So as we run this further, we call the teams out and we tell the coach to get off the field. So now we should be hustling back to our positions. But as you can see, we incorrectly laterally spot the ball wrong. We put the ball on the right hash. Okay? That's why it's important, umpires, and if somebody else can help, to get the information to the umpire of where the ball should be spotted. The referee makes an announcement. We need to hustle back to our positions and get ready, because now we're lined up with a field goal with 1 second to go in the game. And this is where our focus, has to be uber critical, because the first thing we're going to do is take a look at what happens right here. So what happens right here is our focus maybe was not there enough, and you can see that little movement by that end. We don't call a false start. Okay. So next I'll let the play and then I'll talk through it. And I'm sure you have all seen this play at this point, but I just wanted to let those who haven't, I'll show it. So what we have in this situation is we have a blocked punt and a blocked field goal, and it hits the back of the kicking team member. And since it hit the back of the kicking team member behind the line of scrimmage, we are okay. The ball is still live. If the ball would go across the line of scrimmage and come back, we still know that the ball is still live and allowed to be recovered by the kicking team in advance. So now we have celebrations coming on the field, okay? This stuff right here, while the ball is alive, is a foul, okay? It's an illegal participation foul. I would prefer it to be called, because they are interfering with what is going on in the field. You can say that it could be unsportsmanlike for coming onto the field, but this interference is going on. It's interfering with the play. Okay. Now we have the ball rolling towards the line of the gain, and here's where you can see the ball. Head linesman, you should be planted right here. Okay, because if you're upfield, and what I'm about to explain is how camera and how our vision kind of works in situations. When we look back at the ball, we can see the ball will appear to look further back. It's just the way our eyes work. Just like with this camera view, with the camera being behind the ball, it's going to make it look like it's further upfield than it actually is. Okay, so the ball is sitting right now, right about the 32-yard line. And, it appears right now that the back tip of the ball is still touching the 32, and we still have a live ball in this situation, and the offense can still pick it up, which what he does right there, okay? In that situation, and the other thing that we have going on is, do we have officials to understand what's going on? Because it looks like the umpire just makes a signal and starts walking like the game is over. Well, the game is not over, is because we still have a live ball in this situation. And if we were planted here, we would be able to be with 1,000% proof where that ball was when it was touched, because if it was touched beyond the line of scrimmage, completely beyond, we know that we would have killed the play right there. But since it looks like it's still touching the line of scrimmage, it allows that returner to return it. The mechanics should be either the field judge or the side judge should move up to the goal line in this situation, because we have a block kick. So they return it and go for a touchdown. Okay, and the officials rule that the ball was still touching the 32-yard line when this happened. And I understand in these situations, and this is why we're going through this situation, these happen once every 8 years, okay? So we signal touchdown, and the one team's celebrating and the other team is going crazy because they felt they won and they felt that it was incorrectly ruled in this situation. But what we need to do in this situation is get both teams back, because we are standing in the middle of the field amongst players and coaches who are listening to us make discussions on what actually is the ruling on the field. And I applaud this crew for getting together and trying to piece together what happened here. But just like whenever we have a foul, or we have an umpire throw a flag and a line of scrimmage official throw a flag, we want to get away from the players. We want to have our discussions away. So the people who are involved in this discussion, officials-wise, needs to find a clear area. Those other officials need to keep everyone back, because what ends up happening is if one coach is standing nearby the officials, it appears to the other coach that he is telling the officials what they should do. Whether or not that is how it happened or not, we live in a world where perception is reality, okay? So what we need to do is clear everyone away from us and announce, again, the game is not over. We get them separated. We have our discussions away from everyone. And then we come out, and referees come out on the microphone, if there is one, and say the ruling on the field is there was a block punt which stayed behind the line of scrimmage. The kicking team picked up the ball prior to the ball crossing the line of scrimmage and returned it for a touchdown. Therefore, the ruling on the field is a touchdown. Game is over. Period. Okay? Then we jog off the field and we go discuss what happens here. But us allowing the coaches to be involved in the discussion allows a different perspective. Now, if we have a situation where we don't have a microphone, we still do what I suggested and keep away from the players and the coaches. And then when we come up with our ruling, we call both head coaches over to us and we explain to both of them at the same time what the ruling on the field is. Okay, so they both get it at the same time. Okay, so overall, like I said, this is a 1 in an 8-year game with an ending like that. So this is why it is very important to go over the last 2 minutes of the game, all the stuff that can happen during kicks, and how if we use our mechanics, it will help us be in the position to rule on situations and also give us and give others more confidence if that we were in the right position, that we made the right call in that situation. So that's the end of this week. We have 2 more weeks of tough football ahead of us. Okay. We really need to step up and bring our A games the final 2 weeks. Again, if there's any questions or comments regarding anything I said on this video, please leave them in the comments and I will be glad to address them. Overall, let's keep working hard. Let's bring up our level of play because it's starting to get to be playoff football with these last 2 weeks, and give every game, no matter what it is, 100% of our efforts.